السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وعلى من تبعه بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. We start in the name of God, the All-Merciful, the Most Merciful. All praise is due to God. He is the owner of praise. And we send peace and prayers upon His Prophet Muhammad, his family and all his companions, and everyone who follows him until the last day. So as usual, we'll start with the intention from Imam al-Haddad. Ya Fattahu, Ya Alimu, iftah lana فتحا قريبا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. نويت التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير وابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. O Opener, O All-Knowing One, grant us an opening soon. In the name of Allah, the All-Merciful, the Compassionate. Praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and blessings and peace upon our Master Muhammad, his family and his companions. I intend to study and teach, to remember and remind, to profit and bring profit, to benefit and bring benefit, to encourage holding fast to the book of Allah and the way of His Messenger, to call to guidance, to direct towards good, and to aim for the countenance of Allah and His pleasure, His nearness and His reward. Exalted be He. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So, we'll take a look at these words I put up here to begin with. So first of all, this first one we have in black. 4 letters. Right, 4 letters here. The first letter, what's that first letter? Right, this right here is a scene. Remember that when we see it printed out, we'll see it printed with the 3 teeth, like that. But often, usually when it's written like this, just a line. If it's beginning the word, then we have a little hook that comes from under the line and then goes on along the line. Also, I just wanted to correct something I said previously when we were going over the scene. I talked about how you want to have this distance after the teeth to be about twice the length of the teeth. That's not necessarily so. I mean, you could have a relatively short scene and have that be it, as long as you have those 3 teeth. But make sure if you're writing it out without the teeth, then give it some length there. Right. So we have. Whoops. The pen's not so good. Okay, so we have first a scene, So, s, an S sound, right? Oh, that's horrible too. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah. Oh, this doesn't even have a nib. Oh, here we go. There we go. That's alright. To have seen, then what? Then alif. Then, oh, I'm writing really ugly today, sorry. And then ghain, yeah. Kind of almost looks like a ya itself, but we see there's this dot here, and we don't get the loop going back so much. There's this C formation above the line. Right, so we know it's a line. And then what? And then yeah. So we've been writing that out as double I. So, Saghi. Everyone say that for me. Saghi. So the last time that we met, we went over two kind of tricky sounds. The first one was ayn. Remember that was what? How did we say that's pronounced? The ayn. What was the way that I described that sound that might help you? Choking, right? Or strangling, right? Not really choking. You don't make much of a sound when you're choking. What? Right. It's strangling. Ah. Right. Everyone go ah. Ah. That's the ayn. That's the ayn, right? Everyone try that for me. Ah. 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 Okay, good. So this one, body. Say after me. Body. Bad, ra, ya, ayn. Body. Right, with the strangling sound at the end. And then the second sound we went over was the ghain. One interesting note about the ghain. Well, first of all, if ayn is the strangling sound, what is the ghain? What do we talk about? Good, gargling. Right, right. Bismillah. That's the sound. Right? As you're learning to pronounce this sound, it can be helpful just taking some water and trying to gargle with it that way. One other way to get to pronounce this sound correctly is to know the difference between the ghain and the kha. Say if I were to write this word out again, but with a kha this time. The difference between the ghain and the kha is that the kha, when we pronounce the kha, we're not using our vocal cords right here, but with the ghain we are. That's a technical way of thinking about it. Just like how when we say T, we're not using our vocal cords, but when we say D, we are. Everyone go t, t, t. Put your hand here. T, t, t. D, d, d. It's easier to feel with the tha. Tha, f. Everyone say f. F. Versus the dhal. Adh. Adh. There's vibration going here for the dhal that isn't for the tha. When we say this, there's vibration right here. This, when it's not there for thief. Same thing here. There's vibration for the ghain and there's not for the kha right here. What that can mean practically is that it's often helpful if we think of if we think of singing our way through this word, right? So we have saghi, saghi. If I'm gonna sing through it, you're gonna hear the same sound. You're gonna hear the same tone. So say I pick a tone like you're gonna hear that same sound continued through the ghain, but not through the kha. That's a way to test yourself to see if you're pronouncing it correctly. I'll do it first, and then we'll practice, inshallah. So listen to this. This first one with the kha, you'll hear that the sound, it goes away on the kha and then comes back for the ya. Okay. Sakhi. Sakhi. Just listen for now, and then we'll practice. Okay, so that's that. Sakhi. You hear how it goes away for the qaaf? Now listen to this with the line. Saghi, saghi, saghi. You hear that? You hear how that's extended through the line? Do you hear that? Saghi. Okay. I'll give you one more comparison, and then we'll practice. First one. Saghi. Second one. Saghi. Okay? Now let's all try. First, the kha. Saghi. Saghi. That sound goes away. The tone goes away. Now, for the line. Saghi. Saghi. So the test of if you're pronouncing the line correctly is if that tone, that sound, the singing continues through. Right. So that being said, I'll go through these very quickly, and then we'll pray Maghrib inshallah, and then we'll start with the new material. First of all, we went over this one. Everyone say after me. Badi'. Badi'. Now this one. Tabibatu. Tabibatu. Right. Now, if I didn't put this dhamma here, if we weren't pronouncing the dhamma on that, how would we say it? How is it? Tabiba. Right. Right. Why? Right. This is ta marbuta, right? Ta marbuta. So if there's a vowel on it, remember I said it's a combination between a ta and a ha. If there's no vowel on it, we pronounce it as like an H, like a ha. Tabiba. If we're not putting a vowel on it, tabiba. If we are putting a vowel after it, becomes a ta. Tabibatu. Tabibatu. If we put a dhamma there. Right. And now, just so you can see, this Arab woman is. Wait. This was also on the homework, I believe. There we go. Arabiyyah. Arabiyyah. Actually, it would be better transliterated with that H sound at the end, because there is the ta marbuta there as well. Arabiyyah. Everyone say this for me. Arabiyyah. Arabiyyah. Right. If we put a dhamma on there, let's put a fatha, kasra on there this time. Arabiyyati. Arabiyyati. And then this one below it. And instead of putting a double A here, I put an A with a makron over it, an A with a line above it. But same difference. Right here. Everyone say for me, i'tidad. I'tidad. Right. Okay. So I know we don't have time to go through all of these. Maybe if you're confused about these, then maybe ask me questions afterwards. But we'll pray Maghrib now, inshallah, and then continue on with the new material. Bismillah. So 4 letters to go over today. One is one of them is a sound that's not quite in English, but it's not as hard. Certainly not as hard as ayn and ghayn for most English speakers. So it should be a good class today. And then also, we're nearing the end, more or less. We've already passed the halfway mark, of course, and We have these 4 letters today. Then we have 3 letters on Sunday, this Sunday, inshallah. Once we get done with those 3 letters, that's the whole Arabic alphabet. SubhanAllah. So from that point on, then of course we have some symbols and other things that you need to know in order to be able to read Arabic, to open up the Quran and read it correctly, fully. And so we have 2 or 3 weeks of that, and then some practice going over surahs and stuff like that, really applying our knowledge. Alhamdulillah. Do you feel good to be at this point? Yeah? Alhamdulillah. Feel like you're learning something? Yeah? Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Before we start, I wanted to just talk briefly about something that should give us a bit of momentum as well. Many of the scholars talk about how important the Quran is for the Muslim, and especially how important recitation of the Quran is, and correct recitation, correct pronunciation. We want to think, when we're learning about the Arabic alphabet, we're learning about how to pronounce the Quran as well, and pronouncing the Arabic letters is the main part of tajweed, of pronunciation of the Quran. If you have the pronunciation of the letters down, that's pretty much tajweed. As Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh said, it's related that he was asked what recitation meant. Actually, that's kind of a side issue. Anyway, the tajweed. Sorry, tajweed. The main part of tajweed and the trickiest part of tajweed is pronouncing the letters correctly. And so, if we have this down, there are just a few other rules to know about what happens when some letters are combined, or when something comes after another thing, or just a few minor details of tajweed to get past here. Once we have this down, then that's the main thing that we need to know in order to pronounce the Book of Allah correctly. Now, many of the scholars talk about how being able to recite the Quran with tajweed, and most fundamentally what that means is pronouncing the Quran correctly and reading it correctly. Many scholars have said that this is a fard ayn upon a Muslim, is an individual obligation upon a Muslim, i.e. if you leave this world and this hasn't been done, you're essentially accountable for that. One of the scholars, a scholar of recitation of the Quran, who wrote a famous poem about tajweed, Ibn al-Jazari, rahimahullah, he says in his poem, وَالْأَخْذُ بِالتَّجْوِيدِ حَتْمٌ لَازِمٌ مَنْ لَمْ يُصَحِّحِ الْقُرْآنَ آثِمٌ لِأَنَّهُ بِهِ الْإِلَهُ أَنْزَلَ وَهَكَذَا مِنْهُ إِلَيْنَا وَصَلَ. So, taking up tajweed is a definite, unquestionable obligation. الْأَخْذُ بِالتَّجْوِيدِ حَتْمٌ لَازِمٌ مَنْ لَمْ يُصَحِّحِ الْقُرْآنَ آثِمٌ. Whoever does not pronounce the Quran correctly is sinful. Because, why? لِأَنَّهُ بِهِ الْإِلَهُ أَنْزَلَ. Because this, with tajweed and with pronouncing it in this way, this is how Allah brought it down. وَهَكَذَا مِنْهُ إِلَيْنَا وَصَلَ. And it is in this way that it came to us from Him. And so when we're in these classes, when we're learning Arabic and we're trying to pronounce Arabic correctly and reading it correctly, we're fulfilling an individual obligation. So one way to think about individual obligations is that we can think of it as a series of lists of stuff that we have to do in this world. We can look at it from that perspective of like, okay, well, Allah has said that we need to be praying 5 times a day, and we need to give zakat if we're eligible for it every year, and we have to make sure to do the Hajj at one point in our lifetime if possible. And now we're learning that we have to learn Arabic correctly. That's one perspective to think of it, as a list of like, got to take care of this, got to take care of that, got to take care of that. Another way to think of it is through what we have from a hadith of our Prophet ﷺ, that the way that he tells us that the best way to get close to Allah is to do the things that He has made obligatory upon us, and then after that to do the things that He has recommended for us. And so, in a sense, many of us reach points throughout our day, throughout our lives, when we think, I want to be close to Allah, I want Allah in my life, I want to feel what I'm doing, I want to really feel Islam and live it out right. And when we feel like that, one of the best things that we can do is figure out how to perfect the things that have been made obligatory upon us. And this is one thing that many of the scholars agree is an obligation for us to learn Arabic. And so, anytime during this course, or even after this course, when you're reviewing some of this material or trying to do well, if there's any point you reach when you're thinking, I want to be close to Allah, I want Allah in my life, I want to live Islam and live the Quran and what Allah teaches me to do in this world, one of the best ways to live that out is to get out your Arabic materials and make sure you've got that down. Alhamdulillah. Just think about that when we're learning it, that there's something powerful going on here. There's something powerful going on here. If only we knew. If only we could see it and feel it. I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you as well. Because it's truly it's an honor to help everyone on this path too. Alhamdulillah. So that being said, now the new material. First, two letters that look somewhat similar, just distinguished a bit by dots. First one, a word we have in English, a sound letter that we have in English. It is the fa. Everyone say for me, fa. Fa. Okay, right. So the sound is just like the English F. F happens upon the contact of the lower lip with the top teeth. Fa. Fa. So the way that this is written, first, when it's alone, we start with the pen on the line, and then we make a loop backwards above the line, a circle backwards above the line. Then we go down along the line again, and a slight hook up above the line, and it has, above that circle, a dot. That's our fa right there. One more time. Make a circle backwards along the line, above the line. Now go along the line a bit, a hook coming up, and then a dot on there. And that's the fa. Now when it's at the beginning of a word, the best way to write it, the way you usually see it, is with this circle. First of all, it doesn't have the tail and the hook, and second of all, the circle starts slightly above the line. So we write it starting slightly above the line. We make a a circle backwards like that, and then go down to the line and then on to the next letter, so it connects to what comes after it. Once more, if everyone looks. Starting above the line, making that circle, and then going down to the line and then onwards to the next letter. You may see that circle when fa is beginning. You may see it on the line, but it's more typical, at least in my experience, to see it above the line, completely above the line. When it's in the middle of a word, that's interesting. It's almost just like a loop. We're coming in from a previous letter, and we make a loop back around, all above the line, and then we go on to the next letter. And then when we're done writing that word, we put a dot on that loop. Once again, starting on the line, then a loop or a circle backwards, and then going back along the line. Make sure that this circle, this loop, ends up above the rest of the line of the page and of the line of your writing as well. Because if it's kind of in the middle of it, like this, it starts looking like another letter that we're going to come to. So it's above the line. And then finally, when it ends the word, it's like we're coming into what it looks like in the alone position. So when it ends, we're coming into the letter, make that loop, continue along the line a bit, and then have a hook all above the line, like so. So I'll come around and take a look now. One, who here has seen Aladdin, the cartoon Aladdin? You haven't seen Aladdin yet? Oh, you must have seen it. Sorry? Oh, yeah? That's good, that's good. Alhamdulillah, as much as, yeah. I have to say I don't completely disagree with that. I respect your father for that. But for those of us, especially my case, before Islam, no, I mean, not that, Islam says anything against just watching movies, but, there are considerations to things, especially with the whole movie industry and everything. But anyway, for those who've seen Aladdin, who's the main bad guy in Aladdin? Jafar, right. That's a name of one of the Sahaba. How do we write that name? Right here. Anyone say this for me? Yeah, Yasmin? Ja'far. Everyone say, yeah, this is it. First we have a jim with a fatha on it, and then an ayn. That's what this is right here, an ayn. And then what's this one? Fa, and then ra. Yeah. So, after me, Ja'far. Right. Or as Disney would say, Jafar. Right. Alhamdulillah. And then what does the Quran say we're not supposed to tell, what we're not supposed to say to our parents? You want to know? What do we not say to our parents? وَلَا تَقُولْ لَهُمَا أُفْ. Don't say oof to them. Right here. Oof. Everyone say for me, oof. Oof. Right, don't say that to your parents. That's explicitly in the Quran. Alhamdulillah. Ja'far and oof. Right. Yes? If we were to transliterate this out. Ja'far. Sorry, I capitalized it because it's a name. Ja'far. There aren't different J's in Arabic, it's just the one, and yeah, anyway. But typically, yeah, if we're just going off transliteration, right, lowercase j, Ja'far. Right, whenever there's an ayn, yeah, you do the ayn sound. It's not really a pause. What's happening is that the strangling sound is happening there. So it takes some time for that to happen. Ja'far. A lot of the times when you have to develop the ear to hear the ayn as well, because often when we're starting out we don't hear the ayn. Then you'll start picking it up. It's not just that we have to be able to distinguish between the hamza, the glossal stop, and the ayn, right? So with just starting with a hamza, we have with a hamza in the middle of the word, ba'u. But with everyone say for me, ba'u. With an ayn, ba'u. Right. It actually, with many of these words, it takes some time to develop the ear, to pick up on that, to work on the ear so that you start hearing where the ayn is. Right. So it's not that there's really a pause. The ayn is happening there. Ja'far. Right. One more time, everyone say for me. Ja'far. Okay. Radiyallahu anhu. May Allah be pleased with him. So now on to this next letter is similar. Well, first of all, the sound. So when we transliterate it out, we transliterate it as a Q. So in English, typically when we see a Q, typically it's no different from a K. It's a K sound. We're going to get to Arabic also has almost a K sound. We're going to get to that today, inshaAllah. But this sound is not just that. Yarhamakallah. Everyone say a K sound for me. K. Think about what's happening in your mouth. To try to feel what's happening in your mouth for that. K. Everyone say for me, K. Do it consciously. Try to feel what's happening in the mouth. K. Ak. Everyone say for me, ak. So what's happening is that if these are the teeth right here, these are the teeth and this is the top of the mouth. What's happening is that, okay, here we go, here's the tongue. And so for example, when we say T, the tongue is hitting the teeth right there. T. For the K, the tongue is hitting right there. It's almost in the middle of the mouth. Yeah, it's pretty much in the middle of the mouth. K. Now this one is the qaaf. Qah. It's similar to a K sound, but what's happening is that you're bringing the tongue farther back and it's hitting farther back. If anyone watched cartoons growing up, that often when a cartoon character screams, It goes ah, and it shows that there's this, like if you look at their mouth, it shows there's this little thing that waggles. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Okay, right. So if this is their mouth, then often we see in, and there's this thing that's dropping down at the back of the mouth that's waggling when cartoon characters scream. What that is it's a flap of skin at the back of the throat called the uvula. Right at the back of the throat. Farthest back you can go. And so the qaaf is basically when the tongue hits back there. So one way, it's kind of a tricky letter because we don't have it in English. But the best way to think about it, if you're thinking in terms of letters that we do know, is to take the K and bring the tongue farther back so that K becomes qa. Everyone try to say that to me. Qa. Aq. Okay. Now try that for me. Aq. Okay, one at a time. Aq. Qaaf. Okay, good. Aq. Qaaf. Good. Aq. Good. Qaaf. Okay, right. Good. So, what's one thing now that we notice about this? If we think about how we hear the alif in there when we say qaaf, what's one thing that we can imply from that? When we say the name of the letter qaaf, what do we know about that letter, a quality of that letter? It's emphatic. Good. It's not qaaf, no. Qaaf. So that when fatha and alif come around it, but specifically after it, instead of a, just like ba, pa, va, ra, kha, right? Qa, ra. So that's the sound. That's the qaaf. In terms of how to write it, it looks quite similar to the fa, but not exactly the same thing. So first of all, when it's in the alone position, we start on the line and make that loop backwards on the line. But now instead of going along the line with a line along the line, we go under the line and then end with a hook that reaches just above the line, and then it has 2 dots. One more time. Make a circle above the line. Now go under the line and then end above it with 2 dots, or a line to combine the 2 dots. Now when it's at the beginning or the middle of a word, it looks, it's basically just a fa with different dots. Okay? So we start above the line again, make that loop back, and then go along the line. And then we have 2 dots there. Or a line above it. Similarly, when it's in the middle, we have that loop going backwards on the line and above the line of the writing. Like a nose and 2 eyes with a mustache. I like that guy. Now when it's at the end of a word, once again it's going to look similar to the fa, but we have the loop, the hook or the tail going under the line again. So we're coming in from a previous letter, make that loop back, now we go under the line and then end just slightly above the line. So now one or two examples. Anyone know how we say truth in Arabic? Truth? Anything? There's a brother who was signed up for this course, a leader in the community. His name is Haji Abdul Haq. Abdul Haq. Anyone heard this word before? Haq? Haq. Right. So Allah is the truth, the reality. Al-Haq. So how do we write that? Like this. Haq. Everyone say for me, Haq. Haq. Right, there's a shadda on the qaaf. So that qaaf is doubled. It's not just haq, but haq. Right? Everyone try that again for me. Haq. Haq. So if we were to put a fatha on there, haqqa. Haqqa. Right. Now, if we were to now the name of the letter. Is this. That's how we write the name of the letter if we were to write it out in Arabic. Right? Qaaf. Everyone look up. Look up and say for me. Qaaf. Qaaf. Right? Qaaf. Alif. Fa. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, alhamdulillah. Moving on. Now, after qaaf, we have a sound that we do have in English now. Again, the kaaf. So this is, it's not exactly similar, but it's pretty much, or it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty much the English K. K. Everyone say kaaf. 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 Right. Pretty much the English K. And the way to write this, it's a beautiful letter actually, subhanAllah. Really interesting. When it's alone, we write it, we start with a line going down onto the line of the page. Then we go along the line of the page and have a slight hook. And then sitting inside of that is a hamza, actually. It's interesting. It's a beautiful letter, actually. One more time. And then put a hamza in that. Don't ask me why. When I was starting out Arabic, I heard something about the origin of the letter and how, I don't know. I heard just a little like tingle of some meaning right when I was starting Arabic, and I haven't heard anything since. So if you do ever come across an explanation of why there's a hamza sitting in there, please let me know. Do you know, Brother Muslim? Okay. Right, so one more time. This is the kaaf. And now, when I started writing it like I'm about to show you, my teacher got a little annoyed. I don't know. One of the ways that I first learned it was almost getting kind of lazy on the hamza. I mean, it looks beautiful with the hamza in there, but one way that it's not as common, it's certainly not as common as seeing the sin written as a line and the dots all joined. That you'll almost always see in Arabic handwriting. But one way that you might see, and is kind of easier to write, is you might see the kaaf written like this with a little squiggly inside, which is how I often write it, just because it's easier. But for the most part, you probably see it like that. Although note that this is sometimes a handwritten way of writing the kaaf, just joining everything together there. As for when it begins a word, kind of different. Once I said this is an interesting, it's a beautiful letter. First we begin above the line, quite above the line. Then we go back quite a ways, slanting, almost like a 90-degree angle, and then go on. And then when we're done with that, and when we're dotting things and putting extra dots and lines on the other letters, then we come back and do a line going down onto the kaaf like that. So the full form of it is basically 3 lines in a zigzag, but we start with just 2, and then when we're done with the word, we put that 3rd one on top of the kaaf. So starting above the line, slanting back and going on, and then finally coming in to put that tough guy on. One more time. Now I've labeled it here, see, so this line comes first, then that line comes second, and then this line comes third. When it's in the middle, similar to when it begins, so once again we're going to do these 2 lines first, and then we're going to come back to the line above it. So we're coming in from a previous letter, we go up for that line, now trace that back down to the line of the page and then go on, and then when we're done writing the word we put that line above it. One more time, coming in from previous letter, make a slant to the left, retrace that slant, and then go on to the next letter with a line above like that when we're done with the word. And then finally, when it's at the end of the word, we look similar to when it's alone. We're basically coming into that alone position. So coming in from a previous letter, go up, now retrace that down, make the hook at the end, and then the hamza sitting inside that. Or we can do my funky little thing of a squiggle. Only if you incline towards that. Otherwise, leave it. So I'll write a few examples, give you a moment to kind of practice on your own, then I'll come take a look at the writing for that one. It's the same as the alone, yeah. Except that we're coming into it, right? Like many of the letters, the same as the qaaf and the fa. Two examples. One, how do we say remembrance, as in remembrance of God or mentioning of God, something like that. Dhikr, right? Dhikr, right here. Dhal, kaf, ra. Everyone say for me, dhikr. Dhikr. Right? Where does this word come from? You recognize that word? Surah Al-Fatiha. Good. So how do we say this? Iyaka. Everyone sound familiar? Sound familiar? Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Iyaka. Right? So we start with a kasra. Well, it's really we're starting with a hamza, then kasra on that hamza, then we have a ya with a shadda over it, so I, and then alif and kaaf with a fatha on it. Iyaka. Everyone say for me, Iyaka. Iyaka. So not just Iyaka, but Iyaka. Right. Right. And then finally, we have the laam. So just like in English, in the English alphabet, we have J, K, L. Similarly, K, and then after the K sound, we have an L sound. Pretty much the L sound in English. L. Everyone say for me, laam. Laam. Good. Now, when it begins, it's a line down, and then we go slightly below the line, or actually significantly below the line, and then hook up. That ends just above the line. That's the laam. Almost like a big fish hook in a way. Remember, this line going down is going to be straight. It's a straight line going down and then curved. We don't want to make the whole thing curved like a U or something like that. No, it's straight line and then make it curved up. When it's in the beginning of a word, we just have that line. We have that line above, like going down to the line of the page, and then we go along the line of the page like so, and connect to what comes after it. This is why it's important that we know which letters connect to what comes after them and which don't connect to what comes after them. Otherwise, if we connected alif to what came after it, it would look like this. That's two separate letters, right? Alif does not connect. If we were to say L, we would put an alif, then lift our pen, then go down for the laam. If we write L like this and try to connect the alif to the laam now, that's lul, right? So the laam connects to what comes after it, the alif does not. And it's relatively simple in the middle of the word too. We're coming in from a previous letter. If everyone looks up, in from a previous letter. We'll go up for a line, retrace that line down, and then keep going. So it's almost like an alif, but it connects to what comes after it. And then in this way too, it almost looks like an English L as well. In the sense of the main part is that vertical line there, just like the English L in most cases. And finally, when it's at the end, we're just going in, once again, going into that alone form. So coming in from a previous letter, we're going to go up for that line, now retrace it down and go past down now below the line of the page, and then end just above the line with the hook up there, or a tail almost. So I'll write a few examples if you want a moment to practice, and then we'll be done, inshallah. Okay, so has anyone not been here for Jum'ah? Here at Lighthouse for Jum'ah at least once? Okay. What's the name of the, pretty much the regular imam here at Lighthouse? Right, Abdul Latif. Abdul Latif, the servant of the subtle is one way to pronounce the Latif, or aware of subtle things, aware of details of things. Latif also, if you're saying someone's Latif, generally in Arabic it means nice. We don't really say that. I mean, when you're talking about Allah, it's normally not like Allah is the nice. You know, it's kind of more nuanced meaning, more specific. Anyway, this is one of the names of Allah, Al-Latif, the Latif, the subtly aware or aware of subtle things. That kind of meaning. Latif, everyone say for me, Latif. Latif. It's not just subtly aware. I mean, yeah, there are many different ways that we could translate this, many different contexts as well. But anyway, this is the basic thing. Latif. Also, when we send prayers upon the Prophet, peace be upon him, and his family, what do we say? So for example, right at the end, as most of us know, at the end of the tashahhud in salah, when we're sitting down, after we say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Right, in this context, in that particular context, has a kasr on it. وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم. Right? So family. Also, third chapter of the Quran is what? Anyone? We have Al-Fatiha, then comes what? Al-Baqarah, then comes Al-Imran. Al-Imran, the family of Imran, the house of Imran. Right, right. Okay, so any questions about any of this material today? Okay, So my portion finishes here. I think we'll have a bit of review and solidifying some things with our wonderful TA, Tanaya. And but I'll stop here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.